Conversations That Matter is a partner program of the Center for Dialogue at Simon Fraser University. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You have had kind of an interesting journey in life, and I think that what you have done is the beginning of a shift in what we're seeing. I know that you don't like the word entrepreneur, but people who have a vision about doing something from a business perspective that has a societal or social value. I was doing a bit of research about this, and I came up with, social entrepreneur or entrepreneurial altruism. Mm-hmm. Let's first of all talk about what you and your colleagues developed when you were at university, where you went from there, and then how that fits into sort of the greater context of a model that you can demonstrate to people is worth pursuing.
Right. Okay. Well, when I was doing my MBA in San Francisco, my team and we put together a team to enter into a competition that's called the Hult Prize, which is...
The what prize?
The Hult Prize,
mm-hmm.
which is sponsored by the Clinton Global Initiative. Mm-hmm. And every year they award $1 million to the winner of this competition. And every year they say you need to use business practices to crack a social problem. This year it was world hunger. Create a business that can help provide food security for 20 million people by the year 2020, right? So we're students and we go, what are we gonna do about this? And is it just a little student competition? So we entered into this as one of 10,000 teams. We started off by submitting a video. We won that round. We won another pitch round. And what we did is we created, we started piloting a way that people could save money for food. In the beginning it was just food. In the same way they currently top up airtime in developing countries. So it was an impulsive way.
So how did that work?
So the way it would work is, well, we were piloting it at the beginning, but the way it would work is that somebody would go to a store, a woman, targeting women in slums, and have a little bit of leftover change from the day's earnings, or a bit of leftover change from, from the groceries. And instead of taking that money and putting it literally under the mattress.
Or in a jar.
In a jar, hidden somewhere, under the pillow, they could then go to the local corner store and hand that change over to the vendor. And if the vendor was on the same system, we created an SMS system, banking system, they could literally text that balance to them. So the woman would hand over her change, and in return she'd receive credit on her phone, which she could then use to buy food at any other vendor on the network. Essentially, we were locking down that money just for future food purchases.
And it could only be used for food?
At the beginning, only could be used for food, because we were just onboarding vendors that we felt were selling healthy food. Now, that meant that we had to get them onto the system and give them a password and an account. So we could control it that way. So that's how Pulse, the venture, started off life.
Why is it important to do that?
It's very important because people in developing countries live on, like people in the lower income people in developing countries live on small fluctuating incomes. They don't know where their next meal is coming from a lot of the times. Today they get work, tomorrow they don't. And if there's no way to save any money, there's no way to ensure that tomorrow you can go out and buy the food that's needed. We have savings accounts, we have bank accounts, we have families that could help us out, we have a social security system. But people live day to day, so we needed a way to kind of level it out for people.
But how's that different than them having the money in the jar? Like, why does this help them solve their food problem? Exactly.
So the jar is susceptible to being stolen. It's susceptible to kids taking a little bit for candy every day. It's susceptible to the neighbor asking, hey, my jar's empty, can I borrow some from your jar? Unfortunately, in these types of areas, there's high levels of alcoholism, oftentimes by the husbands. So that money is not safe.
It's not protected.
Not protected.
And do they not have access to banking facilities?
No. So the reality is that people living on these types of wages are not attractive to banks. Banks require minimum deposits. Banks are often far away from the area where people live. They need to have a certain income every month, and people have no credit. So
Well, and they charge a transactional fee.
transaction fee, which is not worth it. So there's absolutely no value. And you have to think when someone's doing their local shopping, they're not using a credit card or a bank card. Places don't accept it. It's a cash society. So people are locked out of banks, and a lot of time they don't feel welcome at banks. They know they're not catering to them, so they don't want to go into an environment where they feel like they're less.
How then do they afford the phone?
So the phone is a necessity. The phone is a lifeline. Mobile penetration in developing countries is well over 80, 90% in a lot of places. The phone is a way for people to have work the next day. So they make it a priority. The phones, very cheap phones, by the way. We're not talking an iPhone. We're talking a very simple Nokia phone that can just send basic texts. So it's a necessity. That's it. You have to have it.
But as you say, the penetration of those types of devices is deep in so many developing economies.
Yeah.
But they don't have access to banks.
Correct.
So you come up with this idea. You go through the process of applying to get in and be the recipient of the Clinton Foundation Hult Award. How'd you do?
Did very well. We, to be honest, we didn't expect much at the beginning, but we ended up as one of the final 6 teams. So out of the original 2,500, 10,000 people, we won round after round, beating out the likes of MIT and Stanford in San Francisco, until we progressed to be the final 6. And that we realized, we always said, if we get to this final round, it will be life-changing. Win or lose the prize. Because
not only for you, but for the people who get the benefit of the application.
hopefully, definitely
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Right? You want to talk about altruism, but definitely for us.
That's the entrepreneurship side of it.
Yeah.
What's in it for me?
Yeah, but we knew this. At the time, we're doing a master's degree, and we're thinking about what's next for us as well, in the realm of a competition. So we knew it would be life-changing, and we thought, if we can just prove that what we're doing could work, that could be life-changing for people that we're trying to benefit as well. But so we made it to the final 6, and we were in a accelerated program in Boston for 6 weeks, full of mentorship and pitch practice rounds. And then we went to we did a pilot in India, in Ahmedabad, for 6 weeks.
This is while you're still in the competition.
Yeah. So
you
what we
went to
did
India.
What we did is we divided our team up. 3 of us stayed in Boston for the accelerator. 2 went to India, and then we brought in 3 other master's students from our San Francisco campus to go with our team to India. We made it their project as well. So 5 of them went, 3 of us stayed in Boston at the time, and we conducted a pilot project to see, at the time, are people willing and able to save money just for future food purchases?
So just got to get you to hang on for a second while we take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program. Thank you. Okay, so you haven't won the competition. The competition's not over. How did you fund doing that?
We made a GoFundMe campaign during school. We're in a campus with almost 1,000 people, so social media got around. My old company in Canada put a few $1,000s together for it, just as you used to work for us, sure, we'll help you out. So we had a bit of support like that. Parents pitched in.
And so what do you think it was that made people say, okay, I'll get behind what you're doing?
I think it's an interesting question. I mean, people had relationships with us, so they wanted to help see us succeed, especially people on our campus. It's a campus pride type thing. I think everyone liked the idea of what we're doing. Here's a group of people trying to put together a business that is solving a real problem, right? You got to remember, we're in San Francisco at the time, 2 years ago, Snapchat starting, things like that, where there's a lot of kind of useless businesses. And instead of us trying to develop some app to to
Become
sell it,
gazillionaires.
exactly,
Yeah.
we were thinking, can we put our combined experiences, very cross-functional team, and everything that we've learned and are learning, and kind of this youthful, maybe stupid enthusiasm that we, risky with a risk mindset and say, let's try something completely different in a completely different part of the world. Let's really go for it. And I think everyone kind of has that in them that they would like to do it as well. So that
It
probably
captured
helped.
the imagination of some people who were willing to throw some money your way.
Yeah, in a simple way, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
So off you go. You do the pilot study. What were the early findings?
Yeah, the early findings again surprised us. We got a pilot group of 30 women and 3 little grocery stores, and we said you can go and save your money at these 3 locations between this time, because we had to have one of our crew members there as a shop assistant to help the store. And we found that people loved it. The women were putting about, I think over the course of 6 weeks, they increased their monthly income, or they saved an equivalent of 14.5% extra on their income. Little money that would trickle away, that they didn't know they had. And all of a sudden, what that did is, in terms of just food, is it allowed them to buy more nutritious food. Now, in some places of the world, people don't go hungry, but they're malnourished. So it allowed them to buy the extra vegetables and a bit of meat that could complete the plate, as opposed to potatoes and bread and that kind of thing.
And rice.
And yeah. So we saw a huge uptake, and we were blown away.
And so, what would be the benefit to the store owner as well? Is it that they have now a little bit better cash reserve as well? So it's kind of like, yeah, the mothers and the families win, but so does the store owner.
Yeah, the store owner wins in the way of a bit of loyalty. So that's one. So we were very careful about what we called vendor density. So we couldn't have every single store on the street accepting this type of credit, because there's no competitive advantage for that vendor, knowing that their customers want it. Secondly, they got a transaction fee. So the same way that when they top up phone credit, they get 2 or 3% from the phone company, we had built it into our business model that they were getting 2 or 3% of the transaction extra. And so this is, in a way, it's a product that they're making a margin on, which doesn't take up any shelf space.
Plus, they also have the cash on reserve, on hand, until it gets spent.
Yeah.
Which helps them as well.
Exactly.
Improves their cash flow.
Exactly. So it's a small amount of money, but
It's a win-win-win.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
But our goal always was to make it as simple as possible. We were just replicating the mobile top-up system, which is a daily habit in places like this. So, we wanted to cause the least amount of problems possible. And so for adoption.
So before we get to what happened once you start to come down to like the final bit of the competition within the Clinton Foundation, how complex is your back end or the database that you have to be able to make this run, especially if you were going to scale it up?
Yeah, so more complex than we could handle. And what we had to do, and what we wanted to do, was we had other people taking care of building the technology and the back end. So although we designed the SMS interface, we had Intuit, the company that makes TurboTax, they built the back end of that system. And we had another company that had...
So before you even got started, you were able to attract their attention.
Yeah.
And they saw the potential.
Yeah, Intuit had developed an SMS app system in India called TextWeb. And to them, this was a way that they could get into the financial services, mobile money world in a fast-growing economy like India. Also, there's a CSR aspect to it for them as well. It looks good, and it's part of their ethos to help improve people's financial lives. So it fit right in.
Got to pay a couple more bills here. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program. Thank you. So you're making great progress.
Yeah.
Now comes the judging.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah.
How'd you do?
We did very well, but we didn't win $1 million. So
Did
that
they give you anything? Did you get? Is it a winner take all?
Winner take all. Winner take all. Basically, you pitch for 10 minutes, you get 5 minutes of Q&A. The judges are people like Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus, The head of the World Food Program was there, the head of Standard Chartered Bank. These are big, big names, the president of Kiva. So we're sitting in front of 1,000 people in New York City. Our parents have all flown in from different corners of the world.
And this panel of extraordinary individuals.
Yeah, people that we read about sitting in front of us and couldn't believe, Muhammad Yunus is asking us a question. He's listened to what we've had to say. So it was great. Our presentation was flawless. Our Q&A section was flawless. But ultimately, we lost out to a team from McGill who are doing very well now.
Well, it's nice to have $1 million to get started.
Yeah, it's nice to have $1 million. They did well, so they probably deserved it.
But you didn't stop there. So you didn't win, but you kept going. Why did you keep going?
We were hooked. We'd seen the early proof of concept in India. We'd seen what had happened. We'd seen people saying, I didn't know I could save this kind of money. This is how it's going to change for me, change my life in a way. And we graduated a month before that competition. We looked at each other and said, well, we could go get jobs or we could continue. Why would we stop now? And we had a lot of advisors that were encouraging us, go, I'll help you put another plan together. We'll help you try and raise some money to get you going. And so that's what we did. We all took small, jobs to keep us fed in the meantime, and spent about 6 months trying to raise the money we needed to be able to get to India and get to work.
But the scale of what you're attempting to take on is mind-boggling. I can't think of the number of directions that you'd have to go in and go, problem, and yet you kept going.
Yeah.
So how much money did you need to get through, to get started after that 6-month period, and how'd you do on raising it?
Yeah, so we put a budget together of 150,000 US. That
modest.
was modest.
Yeah.
We were not paying ourselves very much, just enough to start paying back the student loan that was kicking in.
Yeah.
And of course, as we were going to move to India, life's a bit cheaper than here. So we put that together. It took a lot of pitching, a bit of begging, but eventually we won a few grants, but the majority came from one angel investor, who just saw the potential and said, well, I believe in you as a team. This idea is probably going to change 1 million times, but I trust that you will figure it out.
So where in India did you go to get started?
So the first pilot while we were studying was in Ahmedabad in Gujarat, northwest. And the second one was in Pune, in Maharashtra, which is about 3 hours east of Mumbai.
So you get started.
How
many families did you start to bring into this? How many vendors?
Yeah, we had a bit of difficulty at the beginning because what we needed to do was we needed to earn trust. If you think about why you put your money in a certain bank, say you move to a new country, if you put your money in and go to a new bank, why would you choose that bank? Well, you see a big sign or a billboard, you trust it, right? You are aware of what a financial institution is, but we need to build trust. So what we first did is we teamed up with an NGO that was working in many areas, and they said, this is where I think the best area is for you to start, and we can help people trust you.
Because they already had relationships.
They have relationships, yeah. So that's how we started, and we did several workshops where we would literally demonstrate on a paper, the process of saving money and what it means, and here's some fruit and this kind of stuff. I think we started off with, again, 30 families. And they, we took
so you
some
had
time.
to recruit them.
We had to recruit them. We had to chase them down the street when they wouldn't fill out the forms. Please, We had to incentivize them with money.
Yeah.
The first 100 rupees or 500 rupees will be on your account. That kind of thing. We had to try and,
make it worth their while and pique their interest.
Yeah. I mean, we knew it would be, but they needed some convincing. Everyone's busy, and and also the level of trust is low. In a lot of areas, NGOs and people trying to help, there's a lot of fly-by-night people. Come in, come out. They've seen it before. People are wise. So we had to be different.
Our final break. We'll be back in just a moment. Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program. Thank you.
So
you get going.
Yeah, and there's I think about 5 vendors at the time. We had a pharmacy, we had a school, we had a school, it was the English school. So one of the things we found is that people wanted to save money for education. That was the big
So
thing
that
there.
their children could learn English.
Yeah, so that was one of the main things. We, although at the beginning, during the competition, it was save money for future food purchases, we now realize we needed more liquidity. It's not just food. In the very, very poorest areas, yes. But as you move up, people
But your
wanna-
users wanted different things as well.
So so why not? These are all noble things. You want to send your child to the English school so that he or she can speak English better and have a better future. So the English school would accept this credit.
As you got going, what were some of the bigger challenges that you started to realize that needed to be overcome?
Yeah, one of the things we definitely needed, although we tried to make this SMS top-up system easy, we needed to still make it easier. The other barrier was they didn't always see the value in it.
What happened?
As happens a lot of times, I think, in startups, there's what they call the founder's story. A bit of frustration builds up, and there's an argument. So there was an argument. Our Indian co-founder wanted a change in the equity structure. To be honest, it broke a lot of trust. We felt pretty hurt by it after a couple of years of working together, and eventually all communication broke down.
It's a big risk to have done this.
Yeah.
And yet you did it with, a mix of motives, one for yourself, one for helping to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Given the opportunity to do it again, would you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? It's a risk. Like you,
Sure. Sure, I'm not a daredevil, but it's a risk. It's also a huge challenge. It's also a massive opportunity.
So if somebody else is coming along in following behind your path and they go, okay, what was the most important lesson that you learned that I can benefit from as I try to do the same thing? What would you say to them?
The most important lesson I've learned, there's a lot. I'd say just if you feel that you can solve a problem, if you feel passionate about something, if you feel that fire in your belly, you feel that what you want to set out to do matters, try it. What is the worst that can happen? Especially, the younger you are, obviously, the better. If you fall flat on your face like I did, you have the opportunity to get back up. So I'd say the differences between people who succeed in these ventures and don't, so oftentimes is just getting started. Just do it. It's pretty simple.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story, and I hope that in the future, when another opportunity comes along, that you can benefit those in emerging economies that can, find a way to get ahead.
As do I.
That you can maybe be involved again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.